Welcome back to Leeds Lately. Before we get into this one, if you could just hit that subscribe button down below, that would really help me out because we're trying to hit 5k this year. Today's video though is about Andoni Iraola and his tactics. Another Tactics Explained video, so if you enjoy them, smash that like button. We're going to talk about Iraola today, and I think the best thing that I can describe Iraola is Bielsa-ball with tactical flexibility. Now, Iraola's had influence from other places as well. If you didn't know, by the way, Iraola played under Bielsa at Athletic Club as a right back, but he's had other influences from other places, like Patrick Vieira when he was at New York City FC, taught him a little bit of how the number 6 plays, which obviously the holding midfielder Patrick Vieira would be an excellent candidate to tell you about that. So we're going to talk about his tactics today, and the first thing I want to talk about is with the ball in possession, what a Leeds going to play like, and it's almost reverting back to Bielsa. It is comfortability on the ball and patience, and this is something that we didn't have under Jesse Marsch. We talked about the fact that we play forward too quickly, that we would lose the ball in those situations. But you're going to see Leeds United set up in a bit of a 4-2-3-1 on the ball, but that is very flexible and adaptable. It's not going to change. It's not going to stay, like that the whole time, especially when we're in defensive phases, which I'll talk about a little bit later on in the video. But again, that's another thing that's a little bit like Bielsa. It wasn't just a set formation that we were always in all the time. It was very flexible, very fluid. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is how comfortable we are in possession with Andoni Iraola. Now, we're happy to have the ball for long periods of time. Much like when Bielsa was here, the goalkeeper passes out from the back, and these players are able then to stroke the ball about wherever they want, just to try and open space. And basically, it's repetition, side to side or inside and back, hoping to open up and move around this midfield, so then you can play a pass through the lines, and that's when we start to build attack. So it's not necessarily something that's so scripted like what we had under Jesse Marsch, where he would play out straight into that midfielder and it was a scripted movement basically. It's more that we are able to keep the ball, be comfortable on it, take the ball inside and back, side to side and back, and then open up those spaces when we need to actually go forward. So it's a little bit more patience, not as much hell for leather, and I think it does suit us a little bit better because we aren't good enough on the ball to have those fast-paced movements like we had under Marsch, which caused a lot of panic and stress. So you might be likely to see something like this in a game where you have the winger here a little bit inside and then you have the fullback there. And what this allows for is opening up a low block. Now, one of the things that we've struggled in this season is opening up a low block, playing against teams that sit back and defend and try to stop you from scoring. You're able then with this system to occupy more players. If the fullbacks are this high and wide, you're able then to occupy their fullback or their winger that's marking, which opens up more space for our wingers and our other players to create space, and most of all, use the flanks, use the wings to try and get into that crossing position. When Leeds are in possession and trying to break down a low block, the fullbacks are going to be really, really high. And what this does is it occupies extra players and allows the wingers to then try and get the ball to give 1-2s and get down the line and cut the ball back into the box. Now, in this situation here, you see that the number 10 has got the ball. Now, the number 10 is pretty flexible in this formation, in this system, sorry. What he does is he just goes where the ball is. So if the ball is over this side, he will come over to try and support this winger and this fullback. If the ball is over this side, he's going to come over to this other side and try and support there instead. The striker is a lot more central and will stay there. So if that is Bamford or Rutter, he will stay there and basically is awaiting somebody to break that line and get into the box to try and score a goal. But let's go back to the situation we had here. So if the number 10 here, if the number 10 here has the ball, he is going to look for one of these players. Now, like I said, the fullback or the winger has occupied one of each players so that the winger is one-on-one. So he's happier to receive the ball in a one-on-one situation. And what that allows for is this player to come and get the ball and this player here to come and make that run down the line to receive a 1-2. Now 1-2s are going to be very important, trying to bypass their opposition fullbacks and defenders, because what it allows us to do is get in that space in behind the fullback when we're playing against a low block, which is very difficult to do. But the idea then is that the ball is taken to the byline and it is cut back right into the centre of the box where Bamford is waiting to smash that ball into the back of the net. Now that is a pattern you've seen under Bielsa. That is something that translates quite well from Bielsa to Andoni Iraola. Now that's going to be quite a big theme of this system, is that we are going to get the ball down the wings, use the width. Now I know everybody's been crying out for it. We're going to use the width, get the ball in behind, cut it into the box, like so, like we've said on the other side as well, and that allows us then to get on the end of the ball and get it into the back of the net. Now, one of our other biggest issues has been when we're actually attacking, how do we defend? And I mentioned it in the last video about Jesse Marsch's rest defense, and that means basically what you do when you have the ball but you're awaiting a counter attack. You're making sure that you don't get caught out on the break. Now it's different under Andoni Iraola than it was under Jesse Marsch. He actually will leave the 2 centre backs back, but he will also leave the 6 in front of them. So this would be Tyler Adams. Now this is where the Vieira school of thought comes into play. Now, the number 6 here is going to be the controller, and he is going to organise these 2 defenders. If the ball is over this side of the pitch, Tyler Adams will take those defenders with him to try and make sure that they are covered on that side of the pitch. And vice versa, if the ball's on the other side, Tyler Adams drags them over and is talking to them, and he sits just in front of them, if not actually dropping between them, to create a little bit of a back 3, which is a lot more solid than the man-for-man back 2 that we had against under Jesse Marsch, against everyone, which caused a lot of issues for us. So it basically adds an extra man in the defence. When you've got the ball in attack, you've also got an extra man in defence. Tyler Adams won't get forward as much a bit like Calvin Phillips did, sitting in front of that defence, being a single pivot, and which allows somebody like Marc Roca to be a little bit more progressive, have the ball here, and make those passes into the final third. Now, the current Rayo Vallecano team is how this works, and the holding midfielder will sit back a little bit, and he's got the most interceptions, the most tackles, and then the actual other holding midfielder who sits a bit in front of him is more of a pendulum and will able to spray the ball out to the opposite sides of the field, trying to create that space, and like we said, with those repetitive passing movements, trying to open up the space and get in behind the opposition. So it is patterns that you've seen before under Bielsa, especially getting to the byline, cutting back into the box, keeping the ball, spreading it around, waiting for those opportunities to open up, waiting for those gaps to open up, overloading the fullbacks so that we're able to create little 2v1 and 1v1 situations and get in behind down the touchline and then do those cutbacks we talked about. Obviously, that is not the only way of scoring, but the fact that we're able to move defenders around, that we're able to, if the ball's here, that we're able to have players come inside, drag defenders away, create space, that then obviously allows for other gaps in the defence for more regular type of scoring down the middle. So it is flexible in that sense. It's not just one way of scoring. We have got other options, other ways of scoring, other ways of creating chances. But one of the key weapons that I wanted to talk about is the Bielsa cutback. So yeah, that is what we would be like in possession. Obviously, another reason that we're able to do that, like I just did there, I didn't actually mention it, but I moved him. The number 10 is going to be key for moving the opposition defenders round. If he's got the ball here and you have another midfielder come inside, say McKennie, McKennie has the ball, this player then drags this player over here and then allows space to get in behind. Obviously, that's a very simplistic way of looking at it, but that's the type of thing that we'll be looking to do, and using that number 10 to try and turn the defenders inside out, trying to move them around, trying to open gaps and create spaces in behind. Another thing we need to talk about when we have got the ball is the trust that Iraola puts in his centre-backs. Now, he expects the centre-backs to be good on the ball and able to pass between the lines. And this is a theme this season of what Iraola's Vallecano have done in Spain, is that they have had the trust and had the confidence and the ability to play through the lines and try and get that ball into the front men quickly. So let's say that Bamford makes a run over here. You trust in that Max Verber can get the ball into him, and that obviously drags us all up the pitch and makes us able then to do what we said in the other phases of play, where we're able to drag the players around, try and create space, get in behind, get down the line, cut the ball back. All those sorts of movements that we've talked about can also come from these two centre-backs if they are confident enough and have the quality to play the ball through the lines when the opportunity opens up. Only when gaps open up will they try to do that. So it is quite similar to what we did under Bielsa. The only real difference is what we do out of possession, which is what I'm going to talk about now. So those are the sorts of things that we'll be doing when we do have the ball. Obviously, that's not everything to Andoni Iraola's game, but it's some of the key aspects of how we might break teams down, and I just wanted to demonstrate how that we actually are going to use width, get the ball into the box, cut it back, open up space with the number 10's movement, and basically to show you that we are going to use width, and those are going to be some of the passing patterns and some of the patterns of play that we have to try and open up opposition defences, especially when we're playing against a low block or a team that's sitting pretty deep. It could be quite effective. Now we're going to talk about what we do when we don't have the ball. Now, Bielsa was man for man, high pressing no matter what. But Andoni Iraola is adaptable and will play the opposition. He will do what he needs to do against the opposition. So let's say that we're facing somebody that's really good. Andoni Iraola basically will play a 4-4-2. Classic 4-4-2, two banks of four. Now, that's not that unheard of. That is what somebody like Sean Dyche would do, but it's not the same. Sean Dyche plays a low block. Against the top teams, Andoni Iraola plays and deploys a mid-block. Now, the only difference between a mid-block and a low block is that Leeds will try and win the ball in the midfield. It's as simple as that. It's all these football terms and the way that people talk about it sounds like jargon. It's winning the ball in the midfield rather than pressing from the front, trying to win the ball with the attackers like so, or sitting back and trying to win the ball only when it gets to the final third. It's just different ways of winning the ball. Let's say that this opposition team have the ball in defence. Leeds are going to be pretty passive, just moving from side to side based on where the ball goes. So everybody slides across, it comes back, everybody slides back. The trigger to actually try and win the ball is when the ball comes into the holding midfielder or one of the other players in the middle of the pitch. Now, what happens if the player gets the ball? So this player plays it into the holding midfielder, and two or more of these players will then converge when it gets into the midfield and try to win that ball back. Now, that sounds simple, but that actually created a goal for Rayo Vallecano against Barcelona. The ball was passed into Sergio Busquets' feet. The players won the ball back. Falcao made a run, and the ball came to him, and he got in behind and scored. And that is about playing on the counter-attack and playing that mid-block, trying to win the ball in the midfield where it's congested, then going towards goal on a counter-attack as fast as possible, is something that they will deploy against some of the better teams in the division who they don't feel like they can just go hell for leather against. So it's tactical flexibility. It's actually saying, also this could be a 4-5-1 as well. Just to mention that it could be a 4-5-1, but it's very similar. It's just that when the ball is played into the midfield, that's when the Leeds players will converge, try and win that ball, and if they do, then they can release the striker. So that's the idea behind this Andoni Iraola mid-block. It could be 4-4-2, could be 4-5-1, but the point is we are adaptable and we sit back a little bit against the top teams. It's a combination, though, between man-marking and zonal. Most of it will be zonal, but there will be moments where we would be man-marking, but I think that's fine to have a hybrid, and it's not great to have fully man marking, which we saw under Bielsa. It went wrong in the end, but to have a little bit of a hybrid, that's fine to have as long as it works. Now, like we said, dependent on the opponent, it could actually be a different type of press. Now, we will play a high press against teams where we think it's possible to do so. Now, one of those teams, for example, is Aston Villa, because Tyrone Mings and Ezri Konsa are not comfortable on the ball at all. And if they're trying to play out from the back, which I know Emery has tried to sort of stop them doing because they're bad at it, Leeds would then try and employ a high press. Now, what would happen is that the winger tucks inside and basically becomes a second striker to try and press in between these two players here. The striker himself goes there. The number 10 was pressuring the holding midfielder so that he can't receive the ball, and the fullback's position is dependent on how high the wingers are. So if the wingers are deep, the fullbacks will be deep with them. If the wingers are high up the pitch trying to play on the last man, then the fullbacks will sit back as well. We won't just have fullbacks flying up the pitch regardless of who's behind them, so that's something that's positive as well. Under Jesse Marsh, we saw a lot of the time that we were getting balls over the top of the fullbacks and losing out in those channels, but really, if the fullbacks track the runners based on where they go, or basically stand there with them in the press based on where they go, then the likelihood of that happening is much lower. So again, it's adaptability. It's being able to choose how to defend based on the situation rather than just having one rule for everything. The two holding midfielders in this situation also block passing lanes, so this player hasn't really got anywhere to go, and the idea is that obviously they make a mistake, Leeds win the ball, and then they can go and get those other attacking situations like we talked about before when they've got the ball back. So those are the basics of Andoni Iraola's football. There is Bielsa-ball with tactical flexibility is how I would put it. When we play top teams, we'll play a little bit deeper and play in that mid-block, try and win the ball in midfield and then go to goal on counter-attacks. And when we play teams who are a little bit worse at playing out from the back, we will then employ a bit of a high press, try and win the ball off them in those situations, and then we've got the cutbacks, we've got the number 10 opening space for the other players to play the ball through into the box. We've got options, and I think that it's a fantastic way of playing football because it reminds me of Bielsa. It might bring the joy back a little bit. Now, the only thing that's bad is Iraola's away record in Rayo Vallecano's games this season. At home, it's been an absolute fortress. They've lost only a couple of games, and they've won loads, drawn a couple, beaten some of the top teams there. And at time of recording, they currently sit 5th in the La Liga. Their away record, though, has been pretty bad. But I don't think that is something that translates to other teams necessarily. I don't think that's something that's too much to worry about. I think sometimes that is just the way things go, the way the cookie crumbles. I don't think necessarily that means that if he came to Leeds, that it would... I've given away there that I've recorded this before he's actually confirmed. But yes, you got me. When he's at Leeds, if he's at Leeds, I don't think that necessarily translates across. But if you have enjoyed this video, just getting the basics of Andoni Iraola's tactics down, then, like I said at the start, hit that sub button. We're trying to hit 5k, notification bell so you never miss an upload, like button if you enjoyed it, and comment down below what you think of the new manager. Thanks for watching this one, and I'll see you next time on Leeds Lately.